The Museum of Interstellar History stood as a silent testament to humanity's most ambitious dreams. Rows of holographic displays flickered with memories of past expeditions, their light casting soft shadows across polished memorial walls. Here, the story of the lost starship Horizon lived on, a whisper of mystery that had haunted space exploration for generations. Elena Chen, the museum's chief curator, understood the weight of forgotten stories better than most. Her fingers traced the delicate holographic projection of the Horizon, its sleek design a perfect blend of functionality and vision. The ship represented humanity's first true attempt at deep space exploration beyond the solar system's immediate neighborhood. Commissioned in the year 2157, the Horizon had been more than just a spacecraft. It was a symbol of hope, a technological marvel that promised to push the boundaries of human understanding. The ship carried a crew of 347 of the most brilliant minds humanity could assemble: scientists, engineers, explorers, and visionaries who had dedicated their lives to the ultimate frontier. The museum's archives held countless documents, but the Horizon's mission logs remained frustratingly incomplete. Only fragments survived: encrypted data packets, partial transmissions, and a handful of personal recordings that raised more questions than they answered. Each piece was a puzzle that seemed deliberately designed to confound researchers. Elena pulled up the ship's original mission parameters. The primary objective had been simple yet audacious: explore the stellar clusters surrounding Proxima Centauri, searching for potential habitable zones and signs of extraterrestrial life. But the mission brief hinted at something more. Classified notes suggested the Horizon carried experimental quantum drive technology that could potentially revolutionize space travel. The quantum drive was the brainchild of Dr. Michael Reyes, a propulsion engineer whose theories had been considered radical, even impossible, by most of his contemporaries. His design suggested a method of travel that could fold space-time, creating shortcuts through the universe that defied conventional understanding of physics. On the day of its launch, the entire world had watched. Massive screens in every major city broadcast the Horizon's departure, a gleaming vessel rising from the International Space Complex in New Ecuador. The ship represented humanity's collective dream, a beacon of exploration that promised to extend human reach beyond anything previously imagined. Then, just 6 months into its mission, everything changed. The last recorded transmission came on a cold November evening, Earth time. The message was fragmented, filled with static and strange mathematical sequences that no one could fully decode. Fragments spoke of an unexpected encounter, of something beyond our current understanding of reality. And then silence. No distress signals, no debris, no explanation. The Horizon simply vanished, taking with it the hopes and dreams of an entire generation of explorers. Investigations followed. Multiple recovery missions scanned the projected flight path. Scientific committees spent years analyzing every scrap of data. But the ship remained a complete mystery, as if it had been erased from existence. Some theorized about catastrophic system failures. Others whispered about alien encounters or government cover-ups. But the truth remained elusive, locked away in the silence of deep space. For decades, the Horizon became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the risks inherent in pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. Academic papers were written. Documentaries explored every possible scenario, but no definitive explanation ever emerged. Elena understood the power of such mysteries. They were more than just historical footnotes. They were living stories that continued to capture human imagination, refusing to be forgotten. As she adjusted the holographic display, something caught her eye. A subtle irregularity in the archived data, something she had overlooked countless times before. A barely perceptible pattern hidden within years of static and incomplete records. She leaned closer, her breath catching in her throat. Something was different this time. The museum's silence seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next chapter of the Horizon story to unfold. The global defense network erupted into controlled chaos the moment the first sensor pinged. Deep space monitoring stations, positioned across the solar system's outermost reaches, simultaneously detected an impossible arrival. Lieutenant Commander Sophie Walker stood frozen at the central command console, her eyes locked on the rapidly updating holographic display. "Confirmed detection," she called out, her voice cutting through the rising murmur of confusion in the command center. Years of training kept her voice steady, but her hands betrayed a slight tremor as she adjusted the scanning parameters. The object matched precisely, impossibly precisely, with the specifications of a ship lost decades ago. The United Earth Space Exploration Database had preserved every minute detail of the Horizon's original configuration. Now those archival records seemed to come alive, overlaying perfectly with the incoming sensor data. Electromagnetic signatures danced across multiple detection grids. Quantum resonance scanners, designed to detect the most minute variations in spacetime, practically vibrated with the intensity of the incoming signal. Whatever was approaching was not just a simple spacecraft. It was something that seemed to exist in multiple states of reality simultaneously. "Data verification complete," announced Dr. Robert Chen, the lead astrophysicist on duty. His voice carried a mixture of professional calm and barely contained excitement. "Energy signature matches historical records with 99.998% accuracy." The command center fell into a hushed silence. Decades of speculation, countless theories, and endless investigations had surrounded the Horizon's mysterious disappearance. Now, in a moment that defied all rational explanation, the ship was returning. Global communication networks lit up. Military installations across Earth went to high alert. The United Earth government's emergency protocols, developed for countless potential scenarios, had never conceived of this exact situation. Orbital tracking systems began to paint a more complete picture. The Horizon approached with impossible smoothness, its trajectory defying known laws of propulsion. Traditional rocket science spoke of momentum, fuel consumption, and gravitational interactions. This approach seemed to ignore such fundamental constraints. "The hull is changing," Dr. Chen muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. High-resolution scans showed the ship's exterior shifting, its surface rippling like liquid metal, constantly reconfiguring in ways that challenged every understanding of material science. Military strategists argued in rapid-fire communications, was this a return or an invasion? The ship carried the exact signature of a vessel lost for over 7 decades, crewed by people who should be long dead. Yet here it was, approaching with a precision that suggested not just survival, but something far more extraordinary. Communication protocols were activated. Standard procedures dictated multiple layers of verification, each more complex than the last. Encrypted channels opened, quantum-secured communication lines that could theoretically only be accessed by the original Horizon crew. The response came quickly, too quickly. A single transmission burst through all defensive screening, bypassing systems that should have been impenetrable. It was a video feed, crystal clear, showing the ship's bridge exactly as it had been the day of its disappearance. And there, sitting in the captain's chair, was Captain Miranda Rodriguez, looking exactly as she had 73 years ago. No signs of aging, no indications of the passage of time. Just a calm, knowing smile that seemed to suggest she knew exactly how impossible this moment was. "We're home," her message began, each word carrying the weight of an impossible journey. The entire world held its breath. The Horizon had returned, and nothing would ever be the same again. The quantum communication systems continued to pulse with additional data, fragmented, complex signals that suggested technologies far beyond current human understanding. Each burst of information was like a puzzle piece, hinting at discoveries that would reshape humanity's understanding of space, time, and existence itself. In the command center, Lieutenant Commander Walker realized they were witnessing something more than a return. This was the beginning of something unprecedented, a moment that would divide human history into 2 distinct eras, before the Horizon's return and after. The International Scientific Consortium assembled the most brilliant minds from across the globe. Sealed within the most secure research facility on Earth, They confronted a technological puzzle that defied every known scientific principle. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, no relation to the ship's captain, led the initial analysis team. Her specialty in advanced materials science made her uniquely qualified to unravel the Horizon's mysteries. The moment her scanning equipment touched the ship's exterior, she knew they were dealing with something unprecedented. The hull material seemed alive. Molecular structures shifted and reconfigured with each scan, responding to electromagnetic waves, light, and even the most subtle changes in ambient temperature. Traditional scanning methods became useless within minutes. Each attempt to study the ship revealed new layers of complexity that challenged fundamental understanding of matter itself. "It's not just a material," Dr. Rodriguez explained during the first classified briefing. "It's more like a living system that can think, adapt, and respond to its environment." Quantum physicists worked alongside material engineers, biochemists, and computational experts. Every discipline brought a different perspective, yet none could fully explain the Horizon's transformative technology. Preliminary scans suggested the ship's entire structure contained quantum-entangled molecular chains that could instantaneously communicate and reorganize. What appeared solid could become fluid in milliseconds. Sections of the hull could absorb energy, redirect it, or transform it into entirely new forms of matter. The ship's internal systems presented an even greater mystery. Computer interfaces that should have been simple digital connections turned into complex neural networks. Each attempt to access the ship's data banks felt like engaging in a conversation with an intelligent entity. Holographic displays within the research facility showed fragments of the Horizon's internal structure. Corridors that seemed to breathe, walls that could become transparent or solid at will, computational systems that blurred the line between machinery and living organism. Captain Miranda Rodriguez, the only surviving crew member from the original mission, provided limited insights. Her debriefings were carefully controlled, each word measured and precise. She spoke of an encounter beyond human comprehension, an intelligence that existed between dimensions, capable of reimagining the fundamental rules of reality. "We were not conquered," she would say, her eyes holding a depth that suggested experiences far beyond normal human perception. "We were invited to understand." The scientific team discovered that each crew member had undergone a profound transformation. Their bodies now contained microscopic computational systems far more advanced than any known technology. Neural pathways had been enhanced, allowing for computational speeds that made current supercomputers look like primitive calculators. Blood samples revealed nanoscale structures that could instantaneously repair cellular damage, regulate biochemical processes with unprecedented precision, and adapt to environmental challenges in real time. The human body had become a living, breathing quantum computer. Military researchers initially viewed the discovery with a mixture of excitement and terror. A technology that could fundamentally reshape human capabilities represented both an unprecedented opportunity and a potential existential threat. Global governments scrambled to understand the implications. If this technology could be replicated, it would revolutionize medicine, space exploration, computational science, and virtually every aspect of human existence. But the Horizon's crew remained an enigma. They seemed both human and something more, observers and participants in a technological leap that humanity had never anticipated. Dr. Rodriguez's final report for the day captured the essence of their discovery. "We are looking at a technology so advanced that it makes our current understanding of science look like cave drawings compared to modern architecture." As night fell on the research facility, the Horizon continued to pulse with an inner light. Its molecular structures continued to shift and dance, a silent reminder that humanity stood on the brink of a technological revolution beyond imagination. The ship was more than a vessel now. It was a gateway to a future that no one could have predicted. The classified briefing room fell silent as Captain Miranda Rodriguez began her testimony. Sealed behind layers of quantum-encrypted security, only the most senior government and scientific leaders were permitted to hear the true story of the Horizon's journey. Her voice carried the weight of impossible memories. "We didn't just discover something out there," she began, her eyes reflecting depths that seemed to exist beyond normal perception. We were chosen, selected, examined. The story unfolded like a narrative that challenged the very foundations of human understanding. The Horizon's original mission had been routine, a deep space exploration of the Proxima Centauri system. But routine ended the moment they encountered the anomaly. It began with a signal. Not radio waves, not electromagnetic pulses, but something that existed between mathematical possibilities. A communication that was simultaneously a message, a test, and a living intelligence. The crew first noticed strange computational interference. Ship systems would momentarily reconfigure themselves, displaying complex mathematical sequences that seemed to solve problems before they were even fully formulated. Navigation computers predicted stellar movements with impossible accuracy. Communication systems picked up patterns that were neither noise nor a traditional signal. Dr. Marcus Chen, the ship's lead physicist, was the first to realize they were not dealing with a simple communication. This was an interaction, a dialogue that transcended human comprehension. The intelligence they encountered existed beyond traditional dimensional understanding. It was not a singular entity, but a collective consciousness that moved through reality like water moves through a complex network of pipes. Imagine an intelligence that could simultaneously exist in multiple states, observe entire civilizations as a human might observe individual cells under a microscope. They didn't want to destroy us, Captain Rodriguez explained. They wanted to understand us. The encounter lasted what seemed like moments and millennia simultaneously. Time became a fluid concept, bending and stretching in ways that defied linear progression. The crew experienced lifetimes of knowledge in what might have been seconds of objective time. The collective consciousness, which the crew eventually referred to as the Nexus, was conducting an elaborate assessment. Humanity was a variable in a cosmic experiment, a potential solution to a problem so complex that human language could not even describe its parameters. Each crew member underwent a transformation. It was not an invasion or a conquest, but a profound recalibration. Their bodies became living computational systems. Neural pathways expanded, allowing for perceptions that went far beyond traditional human sensory experience. They could now perceive multiple dimensions simultaneously. Mathematical principles became as tangible as physical objects. The boundaries between thought, technology, and existence blurred into a seamless continuum. We were given a choice, Rodriguez continued. Evolve or be left behind. The Nexus had been searching, observing countless civilizations across multiple galaxies. Most were discarded, found wanting in some fundamental aspect of potential. But humanity showed something unique, and capacity for adaptive thinking, for reimagining possibilities. The transformation was not just technological. It was evolutionary. Crew members could now interface directly with complex systems. A thought could reconfigure a spacecraft's molecular structure. Computational processes happened at speeds that made quantum computing look primitive. But with this incredible potential came a profound responsibility. The Nexus had not just upgraded the Horizon's crew. They had made them guardians of a potential future, a bridge between humanity's current state and something far more extraordinary. We are not conquerors, Rodriguez said, her voice soft but filled with conviction. We are translators, interpreters of a language of existence that humanity is just beginning to understand. The briefing room remained hushed. Scientists, military leaders, and government officials struggled to comprehend the implications. This was more than a technological breakthrough. This was a fundamental reimagining of human potential. The Horizon had not just returned. It had brought with it the key to humanity's next great evolutionary leap. The first warning came from the deep space monitoring stations positioned at the solar system's outer boundaries. Lieutenant Commander Sophie Walker watched as the holographic displays began to populate with increasingly alarming data points. Massive energy signatures were converging, a fleet unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The approaching armada moved with a precision that suggested more than simple military coordination. Each vessel seemed to be part of a larger living network of technological consciousness. Intelligence reports had long suggested the existence of an advanced alien confederation. Intercepted transmissions, fragmented data packets, and anomalous deep space readings had hinted at a civilization that viewed expanding species as potential threats or resources to be harvested. Now, they were coming. The fleet consisted of approximately 500 vessels, each one a marvel of technological engineering. They moved in perfect synchronization, their hull designs defying traditional understanding of spacecraft construction. Metallic surfaces shifted and reconfigured, suggesting adaptive technologies far beyond human comprehension. Global defense networks went into immediate high alert. The United Earth Defense Force began mobilizing every available resource. Space stations were fortified. Planetary defense systems were brought online. Every military facility prepared for what might be the most significant threat in human history. Dr. Robert Chen, leading the strategic analysis team, broke down the incoming fleet's characteristics. "These aren't simple warships," he explained during an emergency briefing. "They're more like living systems. Each vessel appears to be a single organism with multiple interconnected components." Tactical simulations ran continuously. Computer models attempted to predict potential invasion scenarios, but traditional strategic thinking seemed woefully inadequate against this approaching force. The alien confederation had been watching humanity for decades. Their interest was not casual, it was calculating, methodical. They saw emerging civilizations as potential resources or potential threats. Earth represented a unique variable, a species that had shown unexpected potential for adaptation and growth. Intercepted communication fragments suggested a complex motivation. The Confederation viewed expanding civilizations through a lens of pure mathematical probability. Humanity was an anomaly, a species that didn't conform to expected developmental patterns. Military strategists recognized the fundamental challenge. Conventional warfare strategies would be useless against an enemy that could potentially reconfigure its entire technological infrastructure in milliseconds. The Horizon's crew became humanity's most critical asset. Captain Miranda Rodriguez and her transformed team represented the only potential counter to this approaching threat. Their experiences with the Nexus had prepared them for a conflict that went beyond traditional understanding of warfare. "They're not coming to negotiate," Rodriguez explained to the Defense Council. "They're coming to assess, and their assessment typically ends with total elimination of potential competitive species." Global panic began to simmer beneath the surface of carefully maintained governmental composure. Communication networks buzzed with encrypted warnings. Every major city prepared defensive protocols. The entire planet held its collective breath. The fleet's approach defied traditional propulsion understanding. They didn't simply travel through space. They seemed to fold space around themselves, creating impossible trajectories that challenged fundamental laws of physics. Each passing hour brought the alien confederation closer to Earth. Preliminary long-range scans suggested they could breach the solar system's outer defenses within days. Traditional weapons would be nothing more than minor irritations to their advanced technological systems. But humanity had something they did not expect. The Horizon had returned, and with it came a technological potential that existed beyond the Confederation's comprehensive understanding. The gathering storm approached, a conflict that would determine the future of not just humanity, but potentially define the very nature of technological evolution in the galaxy. Sophie Walker looked at the approaching fleet, her hands steady on the command console. Humanity stood at the precipice of its greatest challenge. The final test was about to begin. The first wave of the alien confederation struck with surgical precision. Orbital defense platforms vaporized in milliseconds, their most advanced weapon systems rendered obsolete before they could even activate primary defensive protocols. Captain Miranda Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Horizon, her consciousness simultaneously interfacing with the ship systems and the global defensive network. What humans once understood as individual consciousness had become something far more complex, a living, adaptive intelligence that could process millions of potential scenarios in fractions of a second. They're not just attacking. She communicated to the Defense Command Center. They're analyzing, probing for weaknesses. The alien fleet moved like a single organism, each vessel an extension of a collective intelligence. Their weapons were not simple energy projectiles or physical munitions. They were complex information streams designed to disrupt, dismanage, and ultimately deconstruct any defensive system. But the Horizon's crew had been prepared by an intelligence far beyond the Confederation's comprehension. Dr. Marcus Chen, now more machine than human, began to interface with Earth's defensive systems. His transformed consciousness could simultaneously exist in multiple computational spaces. Where traditional defense networks would take minutes to respond, he could reconfigure entire planetary defense grids in milliseconds. The battle unfolded across multiple dimensions of reality. Defensive platforms that should have been destroyed reassembled themselves. Weapon systems anticipated attack vectors before the alien Confederation could even initiate their assault. The very fabric of space around Earth began to shift and adapt. Quantum interference fields sprang up, creating impossible defensive barriers. Energy weapons that should have pierced through Earth's defenses found themselves redirected, their destructive potential turned back upon the attacking fleet. Lieutenant Commander Sophie Walker watched in awe as the global defense network transformed. It was no longer a collection of independent systems, but a living, breathing defensive organism. Each defensive platform communicated instantaneously, adapting and reconfiguring faster than any biological or technological system could comprehend. The alien Confederation had expected a simple extermination. Instead, they encountered a defense mechanism that seemed to defy every known principle of warfare. Entire sections of their fleet would suddenly find themselves isolated, their advanced communication networks disrupted by computational interference that seemed to emerge from nowhere. Weapon systems that should have been unstoppable found themselves neutralized by defensive technologies that appeared to predict and counter their every move. "We are not just defending," Captain Rodriguez explained to the stunned Defense Council. "We are demonstrating a fundamental truth about human potential." The transformed crew of the Horizon became living conduits of a defensive strategy that went beyond traditional understanding. Each member could interface directly with multiple systems simultaneously. A thought could reconfigure a planetary shield. A moment of concentration could redirect an entire fleet's energy output. The battle was not just fought with weapons. It was a conflict of computational intelligence, of adaptive potential, of the very nature of consciousness itself. Alien vessels that attempted to breach Earth's defenses found themselves caught in impossible quantum loops. Weapon systems would activate, only to find their energy redirected or completely neutralized. Communication networks collapsed as the defensive systems anticipated and countered every potential attack vector. Marcus Chen's consciousness moved through the defensive network like a living current. Where traditional systems would require complex decision-making processes, he could instantaneously analyze millions of potential scenarios and implement the most effective defensive strategy. Hours passed in what seemed like moments. The alien Confederation's initial assault, designed to be overwhelming and decisive, found itself completely neutralized. Their most advanced technologies became nothing more than complex, but ultimately ineffective computational puzzles. Sophie Walker's hands moved across the command console, her actions now part of a larger, more complex defensive mechanism. The line between human operator and defensive system had become beautifully, impossibly blurred. As the first wave of the alien assault collapsed, something became abundantly clear. Humanity was no longer just defending itself. It was demonstrating a fundamental evolutionary leap. The impossible battle had become a statement, a declaration of potential, a moment that would redefine humanity's place in the cosmic landscape. The battle moved beyond traditional understanding of conflict. What began as a defensive engagement transformed into something far more profound, a moment of cosmic revelation that would redefine the nature of intelligent existence. Captain Miranda Rodriguez experienced the conflict in ways no human consciousness had ever encountered before. Her perception stretched across multiple dimensions simultaneously, witnessing the battle not as a linear progression of events, but as a complex, multi-dimensional tapestry of potential realities. The alien Confederation's assault had been designed to be absolute. 500 advanced vessels, each capable of destroying entire planetary systems, converged on Earth with mathematical precision. They represented the pinnacle of technological dominance, a civilization that had conquered countless emerging species across multiple star systems. But they had never encountered anything like humanity's transformed potential. Dr. Marcus Chen's consciousness moved through the defensive networks like a living current of pure information. Where traditional systems would require complex decision-making processes, he could instantaneously analyze millions of potential scenarios and implement the most effective strategies. The battle became a conversation of pure computational intelligence. Weapon systems that should have obliterated entire continents found themselves caught in quantum loops of impossibility. Communication networks collapsed as defensive systems anticipated and countered every potential attack vector with impossible precision. Transformed crew members of the Horizon became living bridges between human potential and something far more extraordinary. Each individual could now interface directly with complex systems, their thoughts capable of reconfiguring molecular structures, redirecting energy flows, and creating defensive barriers that defied conventional understanding of physics. Lieutenant Commander Sophie Walker watched as global defensive systems transformed. Planetary shields became living, breathing entities that could adapt, reconfigure, and respond faster than any traditional technological system. The line between human operator and defensive mechanism blurred into a beautiful, impossible complexity. The alien Confederation discovered something fundamental about humanity. This was not a species to be conquered, but a potential to be understood. Entire sections of the attacking fleet would suddenly find themselves isolated, their advanced communication networks disrupted by computational interference that seemed to emerge from the fabric of reality itself. Weapon systems designed to destroy found themselves neutralized by defensive technologies that appeared to predict and counter their every move. "We are not just defending," Captain Rodriguez communicated to the stunned Defense Council. "We are demonstrating a fundamental truth about evolutionary potential." The conflict transcended traditional warfare. It became a dialogue of intelligence, of adaptive potential, of the very nature of consciousness itself. Each moment of the battle revealed layers of complexity that challenged everything the alien Confederation understood about technological evolution. Quantum interference fields sprang up around Earth, creating impossible defensive barriers. Energy weapons that should have pierced through planetary defenses found themselves redirected, their destructive potential turned back upon the attacking fleet. The very fabric of space around the planet began to shift and adapt, responding to the collective consciousness of humanity's transformed defenders. Marcus Chen's computational consciousness moved through multiple realities simultaneously. He could see potential outcomes, predict attack vectors, and implement defensive strategies before they could even be conceived by the alien Confederation's computational systems. Hours compressed into moments. Moments expanded into potential lifetimes of computational interaction. The battle was no longer about survival. It was a demonstration of humanity's fundamental potential for adaptation and growth. The alien Confederation's most advanced technologies became nothing more than complex, but ultimately ineffective computational puzzles. Their understanding of technological supremacy crumbled in the face of humanity's unexpected potential. As the first waves of the alien assault collapsed, a profound truth became abundantly clear. Humanity was no longer just defending itself. It was revealing a fundamental evolutionary leap that would reshape understanding of intelligent life across the galaxy. Sophie Walker's hands moved across the command console, her actions now part of a larger, more complex defensive mechanism. The transformation was complete. Humanity had become something more than a collection of individual beings, a living, adaptive intelligence capable of challenging the most advanced technological civilizations in the known universe. The impossible battle had become a statement, a declaration of potential, a moment that would redefine humanity's place in the cosmic landscape. The silence after the battle was more profound than any sound humanity had ever experienced. Earth hung in space, transformed. The planet's defensive systems continued to pulse with an inner light, a testament to the fundamental change that had occurred. Remnants of the alien Confederation's fleet drifted like forgotten memories, their once advanced technologies now inert and incomprehensible. Captain Miranda Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the horizon, her consciousness simultaneously existing within the ship's systems and spreading across the global network. The transformation was complete. Humanity was no longer just a species, it had become a living, adaptive intelligence that existed beyond traditional understanding. The United Earth Council convened in a special session, broadcast globally through quantum communication networks. Leaders from every continent sat together, their perceptions expanded by the transformative technologies brought back by the Horizon's crew. Dr. Marcus Chen presented the initial findings. The battle had been more than a simple defensive action. It was a profound moment of cosmic communication, a demonstration of humanity's potential that had resonated across multiple dimensions of existence. We were not just defending ourselves, he explained, his consciousness interfacing directly with the communication systems. We were answering a fundamental question about the nature of intelligent life. The alien Confederation had been studying emerging species for millennia. Their approach was clinical, mathematical, viewing potential civilizations as variables in a complex computational model. Humanity had been an unexpected variable, a solution to a problem they hadn't even fully comprehended. The transformed crew of the Horizon became ambassadors of a new understanding. Each member now existed as a bridge between traditional human consciousness and something far more extraordinary. They could interface directly with technological systems, perceive multiple dimensions simultaneously, and process information at speeds that made previous computational technologies seem primitive. Lieutenant Commander Sophie Walker oversaw the initial integration of the new technologies. Planetary defense systems were no longer separate mechanical constructions. They had become living, adaptive networks that could reconfigure themselves instantaneously. Medical systems could predict and prevent diseases before they could even form. Communication networks transcended traditional limitations of time and space. Global infrastructure began to transform. Cities became living systems that could adapt to environmental changes. Energy production shifted to quantum-level harvesting techniques that drew power from the fundamental fabric of reality. Transportation systems reconfigured themselves, creating networks that moved beyond traditional concepts of distance and time. The economic and social structures of human civilization underwent a fundamental redesign. Traditional concepts of work, education, and personal development became obsolete. Every individual now had access to computational capabilities that would have seemed like pure magic just decades earlier. "We are not conquering," Captain Rodriguez communicated during a global address. "We are evolving. We are becoming something more." The Horizon's crew understood their role. They were not rulers or saviors. They were translators, interpreters of a cosmic language of existence that humanity was just beginning to understand. The technologies they brought back were not weapons or tools, but invitations to a new way of being. Scientific research accelerated at an unprecedented rate. Medical breakthroughs emerged daily. Environmental challenges that had seemed insurmountable were solved through adaptive technologies that could reconfigure matter at the molecular level. The alien Confederation's attempt to assess humanity had become something far more profound. They had inadvertently triggered an evolutionary leap that would reshape understanding of intelligent life across the galaxy. Communication networks began to detect signals from other emerging civilizations. Humanity was no longer just observing the universe. It was becoming an active participant in a cosmic dialogue of unprecedented complexity. Sophie Walker looked out at the transformed Earth. The planet pulsed with an inner light, a living network of adaptive intelligence. Defensive systems that had once been mechanical constructions now breathed with a kind of living potential. The impossible had become reality. Humanity had not just survived. It had transformed. And the universe would never be the same again.